This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, coming at you with Mr. Brian Melcher. You know we're doing the next Lean Builder podcast, Hoots on the Ground with no bullshito. And I am so excited to introduce the Lean Builder Nation to Field Verified, the blue check. Brian, how are you? What's going on? Say hello and just tell us about yourself.
Hello. Yeah. First of all, I'm just happy to be here in the single digits of the podcast, hopefully. Congrats on the new podcast, and content so far has just been amazing. Yeah, Brian Melcher. I'm principal here at Field Verified. We're creeping up on 10 years in business, which we really take a lot of pride in. It is hard to get to that point. So we've measured it every step of the way. We celebrated 6 months in business the same way we will celebrate 10 years with gratitude for those who helped us get there. We are a building enclosure firm, consulting firm first and foremost, then a testing firm, both field and laboratory, and now of late a building enclosure management training firm. I'm sure that will continue to evolve.
That's awesome. I love it. Man, you get me excited. I tell you, you're an inspiration to me, honestly. You've told me a couple stories that launching your own business and things don't always go the way you want, and you learn some pretty hard business lessons. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. So, man, I am so grateful for what you've done just to invest in me. I mean, you've literally put the clothes on my back, right?
Nice.
I love the shirt. Again, your swag is pretty amazing for one, but it goes deeper than that, right? Like to me, when I think Field Verified, I think a lean builder, right? I think somebody who's going to take things and run with it and be proactive. And I guess as you're out there and you're talking about envelope enclosures, what possesses somebody to chase water? Why do you want to fight against water? I mean, that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, it's a tough battle. It's every builder's number one problem. It's the most expensive when things go wrong. It's the most damaging to your reputation. And it can just really sneak up on you. I mean, literally tiny little holes can ruin people's days, ruin people's weekends, home lives, reputation, career, and the future of a company to, pretty big, devastating mistakes that can be made along the way. And so what possesses us goes back to how I got started in construction, and then turns out to be something that I was good at. So if you'll indulge, I'll give you the whole roadmap, and you'll see just how unintentional it was.
You must have seen the look in my eye, I guess. Maybe that's just what lean builders do. I don't know. But yeah, I would love for you to dive in and tell us about it.
Take it back to high school. Good at math, and figured that meant accounting. Nobody in my family had been to college. That wasn't on the roadmap, but I was sitting in honors classes with all these kids that it was in their plan. So it's like, all right, guess I'll go to college and work in accounting. I've known some accountants. They seem like they're doing pretty well in life. It's basic math. So that was the plan. But about 16, I started painting houses for a guy in the neighborhood, and that paid well. He taught this really cool lesson that, the more that I knew, the more he would pay me. So I would get $1 an hour raise if I could cut in with a paintbrush left-handed. So I could knock out the right side of a doorway and then hit it with the left and go faster. And when I learned how to spray, use the sprayer, I got $1 raise. When I learned how to do it without leaving lines, $1 more.
What was his
name?
And I want to know.
Oh, that was Justin Duckett. Yeah, in San Diego. He gave me my first window into construction. And it was kind of a cool sequence because, that's the final finishes. And as painters, we'd be like, oh man, these trim carpenters, they didn't give us what we needed. So we'd get it ready and get it to the point where it's paint ready and finished. And from there, I had an opportunity to work for Garth Isom. So another builder in San Diego. He was just getting started. He would take every job. I mean, we'd get phone calls like a tub fell through the floor. We need you to get out here and fix it, but keep it to a minimum because it's a low rent property and there's not a big budget for it. Garth taught me a ton as far as building. His brother Trevor was the same, and how to use a skill saw. Walked me through buying my own tools, financed that. Here's how you paint your tools so nobody steals them.
What a secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I
color
mean,
were your tools? What was your method?
Kind of an aquamarine color.
Okay.
And I've still got a crescent wrench from those days. They did this cool thing where it still feels cool. You would flip your your framing hammer in the air, get it to do a full flip. And if you could land it in the holster, the rule was if you could do it the first time when somebody walked up, you could go home.
Oh yeah.
And I might still be the only guy that landed it. Somebody walked up to the job. I think we were tearing roofing off to replace the roof. And I landed it. I dropped the bags, drove away. Everybody but the boss applauded.
You've always been known as field verified from that point forward, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. So the story's dragging on, but it touched on a couple of things. Garth would take all these projects. So we'd be replacing windows, we'd tear off a roof, we put a new roof on, and we were just doing all these building enclosure items without, even the term didn't even exist then, building envelope, building enclosure. And he would explain, how water traveled and how it worked and why, we would overlap paper over window flashing a certain way. And I really just set the foundation. It just clicked for me then. I served a 2-year mission for my church in Cambodia. Very different kind of building there. And then just jumped right back into construction when I came back. I had some life events that changed the college path. And for a long time, that always felt like a failure. Little did I realize that, all of life is building skills and expertise and adding value. And that's what I was doing in construction all along. Worked for several other companies on the way to field verified and worked more and more into quality assurance, and then found kind of a niche in the building enclosure, just that I was good at it and things made sense to me. And then as we created field verified, the struggle has been how to make it simple for other people and how to teach other people. That is how we have arrived here. Yeah. I was feeling the time pressure. So I really tried to, the last 15 years I've put into 30 seconds.
Man, no time pressure whatsoever. I would love for you to keep on going. Maybe I'll set you up and I'm going to kind of pick on the non-field verified because I find it so interesting that, you found water as the root cause of a lot of the projects that you were chasing with Garth and team. You decided that, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I want to hear the gap there, because at what point, you're going to school for accounting, you're discovering this world of construction, because here's what my heart is, so many people are out there saying university is a good thing. And there's places for everybody, but there's also places where you can go earn while you learn. Ray Terry's talking about putting tools in schools. I guess, can you touch on that, that transition of, hey, the recognition that maybe accounting's not for me, but chasing water is fun, the root cause. I'd love to hear just your perspective on that.
Well, that's easy. And maybe it's sexy, and maybe it's the opposite of sexy. But the truth is, at 17 years old, I was making $20 an hour framing houses. And I didn't know anybody 27 years old that could touch that. And that's 1997. That was a great wage. I was even finding ways to cut out of high school early to get out and build more. And post serving a mission in Cambodia, I ended up working for a company. A family friend put me to work working on their home, and then he owned a company called Quality Built that did third-party quality assurance for new construction. I ended up learning building code. I took my framing knowledge and could do framing inspections. I studied night and day because I was 23 years old. Very young compared to everybody else in this building inspector environment. Healthy sized chip on my shoulder. I read and read and read everything I could. That really became the tone. If I look at my career, that has been the constant throughout. It's just aggressive study to gain knowledge. And so I read everything there was in the code. The company was incredible. They had these checklists for every component of a new build. And so as an inspector, you'd be looking at post-tension cables, the concrete pour, the plumbing placement, the electrical, the framing, the roofing, the windows. I would just study and study till I was competent at that. And the pieces that did come easy really were the roofing and the windows. As I continued to work there and with an engineering firm that later partnered with them, I found myself volunteering to teach classes on how windows should be installed. I would learn that from, say, the Milgard rep, and then internalize it. We had a checklist, and then be able to teach that to installers in a way that they could learn it and try to continue with that. And so that's where it really focused in on building enclosure, because for new home builders, apartment builders, those were the big pain points. That's when they get a call and there's demo and there's damage. It's one thing if a light switch doesn't work. It's quite another thing if you've got soggy drywall next to your windows every time.
Yeah, and if you got soggy drywall, then you've probably had some issues with insulation. There's probably some wood that's rotting away. I mean, you're probably like, if your drywall is wet and you're starting to notice it, chances are you got some other environmental concerns as well.
Certainly. Well, and there's great marketing for the remediation companies, the scare tactics that exist around that. Really easy for homeowners to gain knowledge and have concerns about that. So that keeps tracking. And then 2007, before anyone even knows that recessions is a thing, I'm 27 at that point. I've never even heard of a recession. The last one I was like, less than 10 years old. And so everything collapses. I have no work before anybody else is even noticing anything. All new homes stop. We went from about 115 communities in Arizona that I was managing with about 15 staff to just nothing. The only thing left was some commercial work. There was a couple of hospital projects, and all of a sudden I'm looking at curtain wall and storefront and, built up roof and EIFS and things that I've never seen before. And here we go back to the books. And I am certain that I read every single thing on the internet in 2007, which was not much, but every single thing there was related to building enclosure. We quickly realized that we couldn't provide quality assurance for everything in a new hospital, right? And so we needed to specialize somewhere. And for me, that became the building enclosure.
I love it. Back to the books. He says, I'm going to go learn some more. I got another challenge here. Bring it on. Let's figure out what I'm dealing with. Let's really dive in, understand the challenges, and make something happen of it. I love where your head's at. There's a couple of gaps here for me, and I'm hoping you can fill in the flow. So you're working for this other company. The recession happens. How does Field Verified spin out of this, right? And I want to, how do you take that and then start to do your own? How does that little itch just burn inside you until you're like, all right, I hear you. As Jesse Hernandez says, like the whispers, like I'm whispering, hey, Brian, I think it's time, like Field Verified should be a thing. All this stuff, you've hit the books enough. Like, at what point do you realize that? Until now it's like 10 years later. And so how does one recognize and activate?
I'd love to give you a profound answer, but it's back to money again. I'll paint the picture. 2013 comes along. I've been working at Criterium Engineers, and they took care of me. Recession came, and they invested to keep me there. I did everything I could to create value, create revenue, and live up to it. By about 2012, it was clear, as the third child was on the way, that there were some financial obligations that I needed to change things to be able to meet. And so that was what really drove it. But what pushed me into I can go create a company, because remember, now all the self-doubt is creeping in, right? I didn't go to college. I didn't get that accounting degree. I've never owned a business. I've never had a relative who's a business owner. So lots of self-doubt. You want to know what you should do with your curtain wall to EIFS tie-in at the parapet. I can tell you that. But I hadn't connected the dots yet on the value that I could provide, the vision that Field Verified could become. And I was at a friend's house. It was like a bunch of couples for dinner. I can't remember the event, but James Johnson, who's a pediatric dentist, when I was talking to him, I said, I know I could find the work. I don't know how to run a business. I didn't go to business school. And he looked at me and he said, well, I didn't go to business school. Brad didn't go to business school. We're doing fine. You can totally do this. And it was literally that moment that I was like, yeah, why not me? I had a really high opinion of both Brad and James, but I had a decent opinion of myself too. And I thought, if I can provide the service and control that and determine how to charge for it, the rest can work. And so I took the leap to better provide for my family and the future that I wanted for them. I never had any intention other than doing it the best I could. And that had pervaded whether I was employed for someone or able to be self-employed. The thought at the time was, me. I would just do it on my own, not have other employees, and focus on the clients that I had that could help, provide for my family. So I would love to say the vision was to, make the world a better place. I think that was always the mode of operation as I went and did my work, because that sells and that maintains. And that's what relationships are made out of, is the trust that you're constantly working towards for the betterment of others. So react to that, Adam. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, my mind is going all over the place. I want to dive into Cambodia. I want to dive into 10 years ago. I want to dive into, you said money speaks a couple of times, but I also know your heart and you're a servant leader. And so I guess my thought goes to, when I was out in Phoenix for LCI's Congress back in October, you invited me to your shop. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really know this guy. I'm in a weird city. Like, no, just kidding. We had exchanged, it's virtual, right? Like, that's how we all know each other now. You invited me out, and I took the Uber out there, and I came in, and man, I tell you what, I was greeted with such just hospitality. Like, everybody was so hospitable. I felt like I was here in South Carolina. Like, people legitimately cared about me. I mean, somebody cooked me a pizza for crying out loud.
Yeah, we did. Well, I mean, we were so excited to see you, and conversely, to take the leap to go from just we knew each other on LinkedIn to leaving from LCI, which is what you came for. That's your crowd. The investment that you made to come and see us was just so flattering. We were desperate to live up to it.
And you're still doing it. So I just want to call pause and time out and just own that impact. And I sense a little and again, this comes from a place of trust and love and care. And so Jesse and Jen would be like, he's deflecting right now. But so just relish in it, right? And silence is awesome too. I think again, the hospitality was only a piece of it, because from there, it's like, okay, he had me, man. Yeah, you put me in a group, and I was there, and I was actually crashing on a course. And so I want to dive into that as well, because, I hear you're going and you're chasing leaks and you're advising people on this is what, and that there's a lot of liability in that, for one. For two, I guess, as I was sitting there and I was witnessing what was happening, going through the course from a curriculum, from an energetic speaker who was entertaining and fun. It was an enjoyable atmosphere where people were learning, and we were productively learning, right? Like, we would talk about one thing, and then we would go over, and there was like life-size samples where we could take the radar and roll it over a small roof area, and we could use the wands. I remember you showing me how to find a leak from energy detection, I guess, is what the best I would put it. I'm sure you have other words for it. It was really, really impressive, because here's a guy who like, you can go out there and you could solve these problems, but to be able to teach people to go and do that, and to be able to give your secrets away. And we're not giving them away. I mean, the training costs some money, but from, again, my experience, like, that's where it's at in the next 10 years. And so I guess congrats on the first 10. And I'm looking forward to learning more with you. I get so fired up when I see your name on my phone, whether it's, again, LinkedIn, or it's a text, or it's a random shout out WhatsApp, video. Like, hey, I'm about to chase a roadrunner. I was like, what? That is awesome. I mean, so I guess
I didn't make good on my promise to give you the picture of the roadrunner.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. I'm sure you'll get it to me. I'd rather have the video anyway. Maybe we can get a video in the next week.
We need to recreate that.
We could drop the video like right on top of right now, and it could buy a little time. Make sure he's a really, really fast one though. Meet me.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I'm going to push back on no BS with Jen and Jess, and just say I wasn't deflecting. I was reflecting. Ooh. The gratitude. I am grateful for the praise. And I'll tell you, this training is the best. You got to see 2 hours of it, but the gratitude for you showing up is real. And that's what I think both of us all of us in this community try to reflect is go and do. Talk less, do more, show it through actions, reiterate it through language, and give praise to others. But I'll tell you, all you want to hear about the training, because it's not just my heart and soul, but all of those around us have put so much into that to just make it the best available tool in the industry for all those who attend.
I love it. That's just what lean builders do. I love it. I'm going to come back and finish my training. I'm sure there's variations of it. Would love to experience the full time. I mean, I even left with
3-day training when you're have the time apart from starting your new business. Come on out. That's the only reason the invite hasn't been extended. And to listeners that work somewhere where you think there's probably a larger interest, reach out to me. See if you can get that free seat where you come out and attend. It's it's a $3,000 value. If you want to be the first one from your company to bring the message back. And here's the sales pitch, Adam. The value add to your listeners, reach out to me through LinkedIn and see if you can't convince me that you are a voice at your company that's worth getting a free seat.
Nice. I love it. And you got to be a lean builder to make that happen for whatever that's worth. I'm sure
Yes.
Joe and Keon will toss in a book here or there.
Perfect. We've got books on the shelf. So write a book. We'll put 20 of them on the shelf. You get a construction, Jason Schroeder's latest construction superintendent book if you attend.
Oh yeah.
And then any number of others. Construction Scrum is back there. We have lots from the table group. We've got a nice big bookshelf that we just give away books, mostly because people don't want printed books anymore.
I do.
So it's easy to say free printed books and everyone's like, oh.
I love writing them in them. I love making notes, man. I'll tell you, I've got, so what's your favorite book? You're back to the books, reading. What's your favorite book?
Toyota Way has been my favorite because as I read it, my mind just goes to real life experiences. And then I have to go back like 4 minutes because I have no idea what I've heard, but it just, the way it wraps in the history of Toyota is so meaningful to me, because so often lean can focus on the sexy right at the end. And I don't usually use sexy as many times as I have in the last 20 minutes, believe it or not.
Hey, baby.
But how you doing? I like that it tells us more about the journey. And 9 years at Field Verified, we've been on a journey, and the list of the pile up of failures gets higher and higher. The more you learn, I think the more you realize that you failed far more times than you realized. That one's my favorite. I will just pop it open and pick different spots all the time. The other one I really like is Death by Meeting, which, call it a lean book or not, I think it's one of the best.
I love it. Patrick Lencioni, right? He wrote Death
Yep.
by Meeting. Yeah. Toyota Way is an amazing book. Who is that just walked through?
That was Travis. Travis is a certified Scrum Master, but
oh man,
college student, started at like 20. And
did Felipe certify him?
Yes.
Oh, he's a genius then. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. He just married. He got married while he was here. Incredibly driven. And so it's funny to try to rein him back in. And you feel bad because he's just got all of this capacity, but you rein it back in and help him focus on the main thing. And he just, when he gets clarity, he's unstoppable.
I love it. You talk a lot about thinking, learning, the Toyota Way, the difference there. And I guess, tell me this, are the rumors true? I've heard from people that you've never lost a battle with water, that you are 100% have found every single leak that you've gone after.
It's true, but it's not just me. This is a great segue for Ryan Olson, Riley O'Neill, and Sean Melcher. They are other leak masters here at Field Verified. In fact, I might not even have the highest count anymore. Ryan has just been so good with this lately and is learning how to teach it to others. So they're headed out to a stadium tomorrow that's had leaks for a couple of years, and Ryan has become this go-to. And well, now Ryan's going to take it and walk it with Riley to get him lined out so that process can occur without Ryan being there all the time because he's in such high demand. But yeah, we're batting 1,000.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
it's terrifying. Like
Yeah.
now we're owning it, right? We're owning our impact because we need to hear it ourselves, because it is a service that we need to charge for. And we used to struggle with like, all right, well, if we can't find it, then it needs to be free. And then we're like, that's not a bad sales pitch. If we can't find it, it's free. And then that sounded terrifying also, like, especially as the company's just getting started and you're like, yeah, we'll go. Exactly. You know, for a couple of days, we'll just miss out on revenue and then hope for the best as a young company. And so we kind of steered away from it for a while. Now we just full ownership of it. They have a scientific method that they move through. They're using documented test standards and then good old fashioned know-how to be able to show that to people on why and how it leaked and then how to fix it is just really satisfying. So we're glad that we finally figured out a way to, you know, teach it to each other, market it to the world, and deliver it more than we did before.
I love that so much. Ryan, the streak is on the line, so best of luck. I've got so many next questions for you. I'm gonna, kind of signpost this for you and see where it takes us. What word or phrase bothers you? Is there something out there that's like, man, if I hear that again, it's like, ooh.
Well, yeah, and if I hear it out of myself is really what it comes down to, because that's when you really develop a distaste for something, is when you can't help but say it or think it. And so I went to the team and I was like, what word do I hate? And they're like, when people call waterproof anything on the building waterproofing, because waterproofing we all know is below grade waterproofing. And above that is air barrier and water barriers and things. And then they were like, sill and seal. You hate when people say sill wrong and they say it's seal and you don't know what's happening. So it was like, what are your pet peeves is what they came back with. But I did come up with one. I feel really firmly in this one. The word that I have grown to hate, and I used it so much, is accountability.
Ooh.
I hate accountability because I think we use it so incorrectly. I hate when accountability is used incorrectly. And incorrectly to me is as a manager or a coworker saying, yeah, that thing's not getting done. We just need some more accountability. And in that phrase, it means punishment. We want to point out people's flaws and punish them, and that's holding them accountable. But to me, when you're saying we need accountability, the real way to fix that is, provide clarity, make sure they actually have learned what they need to do or they understand what they need to do. And then yourself perform the follow-up that's necessary and then give the feedback. Because we say, oh, we need to have some accountability, which means I want to tell you one time, I want you to understand everything without asking questions, go and do it correctly without me ever following up with you. We need some more accountability around here. So I hate that word.
Yeah, it's almost, if you hear that word, it's like, we need some more damn accountability. Well, what are you waiting for then? If you think that, then you ought to go ahead and implement that and make that happen. Create that accountability. I've got something that we call the accountability matrix. That have you seen that before?
No, I haven't. Tell me about it.
It's actually, I think it's one of my favorite drawings. I think I got it up here. So I'll just show you real fast. Right here, right? And so it's like an RPM meter. You see it, red to green. We want to live in the green, but if somebody's not getting a topic, right, you got to make sure they're aware of your expectations. And if they're not aware of your expectations, then you got to educate them about your expectations. And now we're starting to get into the green and yellow. And if they still don't get the expectation of the process, then you got to dive in and coach them a little bit, right? And then if they're still not getting it, you got to really look at yourself and try it on a third party and say, are my expectations super clear? Is the plan outlined? Like, all of those steps are process focused. They're looking at, what's going on here. Is it clear? It's internal, right? And then if they still don't get it and it's a process thing, then it's like, okay, well, we might want to have a little bit of a crucial conversation. It might be a person thing, right? And then if it is, then we might want to look at a role modification, and maybe this person just isn't best fit for this, out of respect for that person and the company. And so maybe we try another role, and if they hit them all again, then maybe it's, hey, we've got to, part ways, again, out of respect for the individual. As leadership, I hear what you're saying loud and clear. If you're if you're complaining about accountability, if you're waiting for somebody else to drive it, it's not going to happen. And that's where most plans fail, is that execution point. Man, I love that, Brian. Man, you can't tell, you just got me fired up, huh?
I just teed it right up for you, right?
Oh man.
Everyone's like, sure, you've never seen the accountability matrix before.
Oh man.
I love that. And I think you get to the red, if you've really provided clarity and follow up, that those people will have decided already that it's not for them. And the feedback portion of that, the feedback loop, we have Connor, just he was with us for 6 years, right out of high school. He went and did this task, these adhesion discs that we use. We were like, oh, let's preserve those and grind it off. Well, Connor will do anything and do it well. And he came back after he finished grinding these things off, and someone was like, man, that took a long time. Like, what's up? Thinking I'll apply some accountability here on why he was slacking and not getting it done. He's like, that took forever and I never want to do it again. And that feedback was like, you know what? Those things cost $1.10, and you spent like 3 hours, miserable 3 hours, saving us a total of $66.
That's expensive.
Let's never do that again.
Yeah.
How about that? And you know what? If we hadn't gotten the feedback from him, we would have probably kept asking people to do it until somebody spoke up and said it was miserable. But most people wouldn't speak up. They'd find a way to dodge the activity. I love that. I learned where I thought I was providing, clarity and follow up, that I wasn't. I ran from that, because you don't want to receive the bad news, as a manager either. You don't want to continue to follow up and seek feedback and find out that the person is not doing the thing that you asked. Sometimes you don't even want to know that you were a terrible teacher. If you go to them and they keep doing it wrong, it's most of the time, it's how you taught it. And you don't want that feedback either. And so you say, well, I'm not going to micromanage. I'm going to let them handle this on their own. I'm going to let them, be accountable for their work product, which is, if they're accountable to do their very best with whatever level of teaching you're capable of, and zero follow-up in a timely manner. And you don't follow up in a timely manner, now you've just teed them up for greater failure. Your own frustration goes up, because I've heard the phrase, hey, you've taken 2 hours on a 1 hour activity, or I've let you work on this all week, why isn't it done? Like, that's just a cop-out, right? You're just trying to give yourself enough time that it can't be your fault. It must be their fault. For me, it's been a mental shift. If there are former employees that ever happen to listen to this, they're going to say, man, what a hypocrite. I agree with what I know now and how I've tried to implement it. I have done so many things incorrectly, and just try to do better moving forward.
On we go. As some who's that says that?
I can't with the Scott Van Pelt. Is that it?
Yeah.
With the head and the headphones.
Yeah, that's right. He's like the Tony Robbins of construction, I think, right? Oh
He
man,
might be.
His head's getting bigger as we speak.
Good old Jason Schroeder.
Amen. I have never asked anybody this question before. And as we're sitting here talking, and you've got the company field verified, and you're batting 1,000, and you've been on, a bunch of projects in the last 10 years. I'm curious, what constitutes, or what makes up a lean builder, like a field verified lean builder?
Yeah, maybe I'll get a little clarity on the question. When we see a lean builder, what makes me dub them a lean builder? Is that the question?
Yeah, you get to see a lot of general contractors. You get to see a lot of owners reps. You get to see a lot of builders, whether we're looking at it from like a craftsperson perspective of like, hey, the people who do the details right, or the general contractor who's establishing flow on the project, superintendents. Like what is like, man, that person's a lean builder. Like I would field verify that.
What we call that? We say, man, that person's going to get promoted.
Really? Okay. Tell me.
Yeah, honestly, what you're describing of, what is it that jumps out to us about a builder that's, truly a lean builder, which to me, a lean builder is someone that focuses on learning, focuses on people, and then focuses on efficiency. And I don't even know that the third is real. I think you gain efficiency when you focus on learning and you focus on people. Jump back to the story of Field Verified. I left out about 1,000 people that I owe credit to along the way, because When I was thrown into commercial, I remember sitting on a hospital project and it had EFIS on it. I was EFIS certified as an inspector, and I'd probably seen it like twice. But of course I'm qualified because I'm certified. So I sit in the meeting. I must have given away my ignorance and my youth and inexperience. And Diversified Interiors, Lawrence and Todd, after the meeting, they grabbed me. They were the EFIS installers, and they said, "Hey, would you like to walk the job?" And, and then they like nod and smile, because what they mean is like, actually see this stuff, since you have no idea what you're talking about. They deflect when I thank them for, changing my life and the trajectory of my life by teaching me EFIS. They turn around and say, "Well, you were the first to ever come and listen, and we're just so grateful that you listened." But we're, probably 15 years into our relationship.
That sounds familiar. I think I just heard that on this podcast, actually.
Really?
They must have taught you a little something there, huh?
Yes. Well, learning from others. And so EFIS, masonry, roofing, the list, and I could name the people that have done this, and then I'd forget some. But that expertise, when I ran out of things to read, came from the people who are actually doing the work. So a lean builder, to bring it back, a lean builder lets those voices be heard, gains the experience of those subcontractors that are on the job site, lets their voices be heard about what they think the sequence of a building enclosure should be, asks them where they think the risks are, because I don't care if you're a superintendent that's been doing building enclosures for 15 years, that means you've done 5, maybe 6 building enclosures. Every subcontractor on your job has that many projects under their purview today. And so in the same 15 years, they've got 60, 80 projects under their belt. What they know you need. And so a lean builder to me is somebody that gives voice, listens and learns, reacts, gives feedback to them when they do a good job, and goes and sees. When they go and see, they can react, and then the feedback loop continues. They ask what we think we should do to achieve certain goals, and they just go. And it doesn't matter if they're sitting in a meeting or sitting out on the job site, or as they elevate to more executive levels, as we always see them do, and are working with a different type of team. A lean builder to me is one that's doing all of those things, and without fail, they always get promoted.
I love it. Get promoted. That's a lean builder. It is someone who goes above and beyond, who's going to make it right, who's going to invest that extra 0.3, that, as Ultra Steve Turner would say. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. There's tons of value in that for me. I usually, we're getting down to the end here, and I usually ask folks for their advice. Like if you were just going into the construction industry, what advice would you give to that next person coming in? But I'm really just using that as a deflection to really catch you way off guard, to say, Brian, when are you releasing your podcast? I know I've watched a couple live streams. I've seen Jason Schroeder give you this rah. I hear you telling us you're batting 1,000. Like, how are you not out there spreading the gospel of envelope enclosures? And golly, you're doing such amazing things. All you got to do is just hit record when you're there doing it.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. When am I going to do it? You did prep me for this. None of the rest of this was rehearsed, but I don't have an answer for that. I have a lot of excuses.
Okay. Do we need to do you want to scrum it out real fast? What do we need to do to eliminate the roadblocks? I'm willing to help, but however.
In a pretty embarrassing move, we had a LinkedIn Live session scheduled today where our intent was to scrum it out. And in a rare moment, I was overwhelmed with it and frustrated by my lack of preparation. And so it was canceled. And I can't remember the last time I did something like that. And so you want vulnerability. There you go. I get, it's I'm really uncomfortable with this truth and I'm scratching my eyebrow. We have a pretty high standard for super professional branding and putting our best effort forward, feeling like that those we interact with deserve it. And the advice we keep getting is just do it, just start podcasting. And it's contradictory to our preparation in so many other areas. That's where we continue to struggle is, things aren't set up. But then we start scrumming it out and we're putting the Post-its up and it's like, well, we're trying to do it in our South warehouse because we have nice space there. but there's no Wi-Fi over there. So there's some pretty silly and stupid excuses that are keeping us from doing it. And yeah, that's where we're at, Adam.
Well, I appreciate the vulnerability there. I'm going to tell you something I learned from Jason Schroeder, who he said George Patton said a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week. It's something that, I have often found myself kind of paralysis analysis. There's so much stuff to do. Scrum helps me with that. But even after, like, I find myself diving in, editing, like, I told Joe and Keon, like, I'm not going to edit these things. And then I find myself like diving in and editing. And what I'm finding is that I become that bottleneck. And Jesse has told me, a lot of ideas die in cemeteries, or there's a lot of ideas floating around in cemeteries. From a lean builder, like, you could do all of the lean builders justice out there if you would get out and help us understand what is the right sequence. Like we can be vulnerable enough to ask you that question, and let's get ahead of it, because the longer we wait to go and install the flashing or the turn-ups, right? And people are stepping on them as they come in and out of doors or windows, and they're flattening out. Like those shapes mean things. And so don't let this flatten out, right? Like before the water starts coming in, please get it to us and help us. I mean, we all fight water. You are a valuable asset. Again, the way you teach, the way you, and I'm not going to let you deflect from this, the way you engage, like through all the senses, touch, right? There were smells in there. There was energy, lighting. There was, an experience through doing. There's all these different ways that you're reaching out to learn and to teach others. Like you're also learning in that moment, which is amazing. And to be vulnerable like that, like that's impressive. And so that's the impact that you have made to me. And I can tell you, if I ever chase a leak, you're the first guy I'm calling. One quick question for you before you try to do something that we disagreed on earlier. What is the difference between reflection and deflection?
I think deflection, to me, deflecting praise would be, a lack of comfort in receiving praise. My personality type thrives on it. I'm very, very comfortable. In fact, I will ask for praise. I will solicit it. What I've worked on through, the last 30 years is vocalizing sincere gratitude. And so nothing triggers that gratitude like receiving praise. The moment of receiving praise, I quickly reflect on what got me there, that it's more than just my own effort or talents. And so I come back with very sincere gratitude. And that's what I think reflecting is just, hey, thanks for that reminder on gratitude. I have that on my mind too.
Got it. I like that answer. That's very profound, deep.
So you let me off the hook on the podcast.
No, I didn't. I've been dealing with trade partners for 20 years. I was coming back to it. I got all my notes here. You can't lose me on that trail. But sorry to interrupt.
Not at all. Honestly, right now I'm thinking that the podcast is a great concept, but the forum probably should be a YouTube channel. And you've seen a little bit on LinkedIn where we're pushing, hey, look, these laps are an issue. This is an issue. Look at what these trade contractors are doing. I think we could make a lot of impact on a YouTube channel with video shorts that become resources. If I was going to push to get something that would make a difference right away, I think I would push Field Verified to get some of our content out there to the world and available, because we've decided that we don't need to hide these things, that we can start sharing them for the betterment of everyone around us. And, if that diminishes the value that we provide, it won't. It just won't. We want to become more of an open resource and get more information out there.
Man, that's exciting. I will tune in. I will subscribe. You got that. And I will let you off the hook if that's the answer. When's the YouTube channel?
I'll tell you what, we can have 10 videos on the YouTube channel before this airs. When is this going to air?
Oh, don't race me, man. You won't win that. It's a quick phone call, and this will probably air. We're probably this might be our Valentine's Sweetheart edition.
We're definitely winning. I'll have 10 videos up. I'll have 10 videos up Monday.
So but that's not all. But wait, there's more. 10 videos. Okay. I also want 25 subscribers.
25 subscribers.
Yes, before we release this podcast. So if you can, do you think that's too easy? 25? I mean, maybe we should do like 50. I don't know. What do you think?
50 is a challenge. 25 is no problem. This is where we're headed, though. Brian wins.
Brian wins. Woo! All right.
Oh, I need 50 followers by what day? By Valentine's Day?
By Valentine's Day. Oh, yeah. I love it. And I'm going to let you off the podcast.
Thank you.
But I still want to hear the podcast, though, because you're super entertaining, fun, a very enjoyable person to be around. And man, I just learn from you every single time we're around. So we've got a, I think a wager here is what I'm discovering, right? That's what I'm feeling.
50 followers.
50
by
followers.
Valentine's Day. My son's birthday.
Oh,
he'll be 16.
What's his name?
It's his sweet 16 Valentine's Day birthday. Cade Melcher. Yep.
Cade, C-A-D-E.
K-A-I-D.
Ooh, Cade.
I was in charge of the spelling, so right or wrong, I did that.
That's amazing. That's one letter from my son's name, Kai. K-A-I.
Nice.
Cade. I love that. That's man, that's cool. Well, happy birthday, Cade. Your dad is hopefully going to win, because I know I'm going to do everything I can to. What do you win again? I don't know. What is?
Oh, I don't need to win anything. I just need to win.
You're going to win. I know that in you. I see it in your eyes. The past 10 years, man, again, huge inspiration to me. Like just your stories. I've had comfort. I've had experiences similar to what you talked about, and to know that somebody had the vision to see through it and make it happen. You are an inspiration to me. Thank you so much, Brian. What else are we missing? What else you want to get out there?
I didn't get to give my advice to someone coming into the construction industry.
Yeah,
so,
totally threw you off.
This is an industry where people move all the time.
Like location, geographic location, you're saying.
Just jobs, right? I mean, right now, while we're booming, it's, more money, go here, go there. What, does this company offer more training? Do they offer more vacation time? Is there more glory? Whatever drives people to change jobs, we see a lot of that. And I think if I was, judging where I needed to go, first you take care of your needs and the needs of your family. But after that, I would really focus on where I see communication happening effectively. As I interview and work around a company, do they communicate with each other well? Do they work on communication? Because that's what you're going to need. You're going to need to learn as you go into something new. And that's true in construction. I think I worked with some great communicators, but I always laugh sometimes too, where it's like there's a tool left on top of a ladder and you're like, okay, well, how did I learn this? Well, there were a lot of profane words at a really high volume. That's how I learned it. In fact, I think the ladder got kicked over and the things went flying off and you're just like, I know I should be quiet and I don't know what the lesson's about to be, but I'm sure there's one coming at very high volume. Do you find a place where you can receive good communication and work on your own communication? Because the better you can express what you need, the more quickly you'll find out where you fit and where you should go instead. Hopefully you land somewhere amazing right away, but move and look for those things.
Yeah, ask questions. I hear you saying when you communicate and listen, be in the moment. It's funny we don't want to dive off the cliff here, but when I first started, I was the great ape, an assistant project engineer with a degree in public and cultural communications, and they all laughed at me. I'll tell you one thing I've discovered is that that's one of the best things that I could have ever done from a construction perspective. You nailed it. That was deep, and I appreciate that. We've got to look at things like if we were to just package up this box of information and I send it to you, how are you receiving it? And did I shove it? Did I wrap it too tight? Did I tape it? Like, how are you opening the box and then taking out the words and receiving those and then reflecting on those and then coming back to another? I actually find myself losing my train of thought sometimes in conversations because it's, man, I'm still stuck on Cade, right? That to me, that was happy birthday, Cade. Hopefully your dad wins. Hopefully you can help him get those 50 followers, huh?
Yep. Closing thought. I always, as you're talking, I'm getting more clarity on this thought. I always assumed that everyone who gave me a task wanted me to succeed, do it successfully. That always allowed me to ask more questions. If I felt like I didn't have what I needed to be successful, that must have been an omission. And I'd go back and get more and I would just demand it. And I think that's what everybody should do, is expect that if you're given an assignment, they expect you to be successful at it. If you don't have what you need, go get it. And if you're in a place that won't give it to you, go somewhere else.
Yeah. If you can't change the people, change the people.
Yeah. That's a t-shirt.
I can't remember where I heard it. Oh yeah, I've got a big idea for t-shirts. Maybe you can help me, because these are really cool, really comfortable. I want to launch constructionism. I'm a huge, you've probably been able to tell, flat bill fan. I got to get your contact. Like, this is quality gear. We need some funny constructionism sayings, the lean builder,
Yeah, we're working on hashtag no leaks.
I like it. I like that
And
a
you
lot.
always got to do the Tonight Show. There's the legend, Brian Olson.
See, Mr. Brian.
Guys,
Have a good evening. Oh man, he's probably off for duty, huh?
He is off to, actually, they're doing their pre-walk to chase down a leak at a stadium.
Good for him, man. That's awesome. You get me so fired up. Well, I appreciate you hanging out, especially on such short notice. I'm dying for your podcast, but I'll settle for your YouTube. 50 followers, field verified. Thank you for everything you do, and good luck on being the Floyd Mayweather of leaks.